Hi, everyone. Welcome back to All About Energy, our weekly video series where we talk about all things spiritual, metaphysical, and cosmic. My
Mhm.
name is Peyton, and I am your host for tonight. And I am joined by two of my amazing intuitive friends, Corey Davidson and Yaila Weddle. And if you're new to our videos, first of all, welcome. We're so happy to have you. And just a little background, we've created this video series to help you on your spiritual path. We release a new video every Wednesday where we share tips and tools and advice to just make your ascension journey easier, to share the information we wish we had known when we were just starting out. So if that sounds good to you, don't forget to click the subscribe button so that you don't miss a future video. So tonight we are talking about the topic of how to get unstuck. So many of us have felt such a heavy stuck energy with what we have all gone through in 2020 and the beginning of this year. So tonight the ladies and I are going to talk about how to work through stuck energy. So let's get started. So I'd like to start with you, Yaila. How would you help people move through this stuckness that so many people are just feeling like they can't shake off, they can't move out of?
Yeah, this is a big topic that comes up from time to time. One of our previous videos, we talked about growth periods, and so the stuckness many times shows up during a growth period. And one of the very first go-to things I always recommend is for people not to push away or deny what emotions are coming up. Meaning, if you are feeling stuck, don't make yourself wrong for what you're noticing. There's a lot of, I think, misconception out there in the spiritual community where you're not supposed to feel frustrated. You're not supposed to feel upset. You're not supposed to feel down. You're not supposed to feel stuck. And many times when you're feeling those feelings, it's your natural emotions and intuition showing you that something's out of alignment. And for me, it's kind of a roadmap to putting you on track of what is in alignment. So they're just kind of like little signs and pointers to help you stay on the right path. So the number one thing I would say is don't make yourself wrong if you do notice that you're stuck, and let yourself feel whatever emotions are coming up. And once you feel those thoughts and emotions, you give yourself a chance to explore them without making yourself wrong or making yourself, um, you know, not able to move forward. Because I feel like not only do we make ourselves wrong, but we almost think of our like there's something wrong with us. Not that like we kind of feel like everybody else has it all figured out. Why can't I? Like we really get down on ourselves. And the truth is, there's not a single person I've ever worked with who hasn't been in these moments, all different backgrounds. And so when you just give yourself that grace, for one, you can really feel the emotions and you get some awareness on it. And then the second piece I would add to that is once you have an awareness, it starts to give you clarity for what you really want. If you are feeling stuck and maybe you're feeling frustrated about it, or maybe you are feeling down about it, and then you recognize what those emotions are without making yourself wrong and knowing that this is just moving you to the next level, then you start asking yourself the questions of, well, I'm stuck because of why. You explore what is feeling unstuck. Is it the situation you're in? Is it the people you're connecting with? Is it your thoughts around it? Is it all the above? Is it something else? Energetic wise, is there something that you can change? So you just start to get curious about why you're feeling stuck. So not making yourself wrong. Why are you feeling stuck? And then you can start asking yourself, well, what would make me feel like I'm on my right path? What would make me feel like I'm more in alignment? And then getting curious about your next steps. What would that look like if I was unstuck? What would the flow look like versus the stuckness look like? And you can start to like shift yourself out of that stuck pattern. The interim between going from the curiosity phase for me, I feel like is a really great opportunity to bring in all different types of energy tools out there. So the three of us here have many different modalities that we've studied in. There's emotional technique, you know, the tapping. There is theta healing, there is energy healing, there's Reiki, there's all these different cool, and you know, more, I'm just naming just a few examples, but there's all these cool modalities that can help you move through that feeling of being stuck. And then you're curious, so like, okay, I'm stuck because of this. And then you can look to see like, where is that energy stuck? You know, what does this look like? And then how do I move forward? So that's kind of how I would break down feeling, you know, when you are noticing that you're stuck, just, you know, letting yourself know that this is part of the process of moving into your next phase. And we've talked in previous videos, like once you're there, you can really utilize the energy work to help yourself move through these phases in a lot more flow and a lot more ease and grace if you just allow the process.
Beautifully said. I love that, especially the part about not making yourself wrong, because I think that's something we all can fall into so easily. So I love how you frame that. What about you, Corey? What are your pointers on for people who are feeling this stuck and this heavy energy right now?
Well, you know what, I loved what you said, Yaila. And, you know, what came to mind right away is, you know, that feeling of being stuck generally is the feeling of frustration, you know, and as energy moves and shifts, when we're stuck, it means that really nothing is shifting. And it brings up something that I often think about is what we resist persists. So, you know, when we resist that feeling of being stuck and allow ourselves to get more frustrated because we want things to move or we want things to shift, it'll just persist being stuck. And I think of being stuck as the pause button. You know, there's been times, I mean, we all do get stuck. That's, you know, and I change my perspective about it and think, okay, wait a minute. You know, I feel stuck, which often accompanies the frustration, right? The frustration comes, and it's an opportunity to be still, you know, and not fight it, because if you do, you know, it just gets worse. So oftentimes, you know, I encourage my clients and students to do several things. One is you know, I say call somebody in your class or your teacher, because oftentimes when we're stuck, it's because we can't get a grasp of what's really going on. Or it might be, you know, we see somebody else growing and changing much faster than us. Um, so sometimes consulting with your teacher or somebody else who's on that spiritual path with you can at least shift the energy a bit. Maybe take a look at the energy. Meditation is always great, you know, when feeling stuck. Also, you know, doing something new, you know, finding a desire or doing something new so that that energy starts moving by, you know, something new, you know. So let's just say if you know, you haven't taken a walk on the beach for a long time, you know, going into the ocean, and at least you're getting your feet, you know, and grounding. And it, you know, with all the tools that we've been talking, you know, we've been talking about a lot of tools, but you know, I just start using the tools that, you know, that we teach, that we know, that we all the different modalities, like the theta healing and you know, Reiki, you know, meditation, and also too, just physically getting active, whether it's literally a walk down the street, you know, just move the energy. When we're feeling stuck, it's often because um, you know, the energy has gotten stuck. Just recently, my daughter was in a period of being really stuck, and we decided to take some theta healing classes. And because we were, you know, we both took it. So because we were moving energy in a different way, oh my gosh, it changed everything. I mean, she's like a different person, you know, she's unstuck. And it was wonderful. So sometimes picking up like maybe even a 1 day workshop, you know, Yaila and I work at Intuitive Insights, myintuition.net, and there's like 1 day workshops where you can just go and sit and maybe use some new tools or just a different atmosphere. But we all do get stuck. And I always feel as though being stuck is really that pause button to, you know, let what we've just been working through or, you know, energy that we've been shifting and moving to just integrate. So to not fight it, right? So just not fight it because then it'll just persist and it'll take longer. We can get through it, you know, with ease and grace or somewhat, you know, a little bit more ease and grace, but to be gentle with yourself, you know, like you said, Yaila, grace, you know, giving yourself some grace because when we're moving energy and we're working with energy, it takes a lot of energy to do it. And sometimes our bodies need a break. You know, sometimes our minds need a break. And so, you know, that feeling of being stuck is just that pause to let us know that, you know, maybe there's something else that we like to explore, you know. At the end of a feeling stuck, I always know that there's, you know, big stuff coming after that. So that's what I have to say about being stuck and getting unstuck.
I think that's great. I think that resonates so much with me. You know, to hold grace, you know, when this happens, and that what you resist persists. And so, yeah, I think you're absolutely right on, Corey. Absolutely. And I think that I was so glad, Corey, when you suggested this topic, because I think so many people are feeling this energy right now, because we've come through just such a collective trauma and reset over the past year and a half that, you know, the whole way we were used to working doesn't really work anymore, and no one really has their feet under them. And the way we work and interact, everything's changing. And so I think there's a lot of just feeling of paralysis in everyone, even people who were, you know, kind of in a flow, you know, that you can't operate the same way anymore. So then what do you do? Because we don't always see the next phase. And so this stuck energy has been a huge thing for me. It's been a huge struggle for me, to be honest. This past year and a half, I've just felt like I've been in quicksand, you know, and so I keep asking the guides, you know, because it's so tempting, I think, especially for anyone who comes from a left brain analytical background too. Our first thing is to fight it with our mind, to try to solve it. That's what my ego mind wants to do. It wants to get to the solution. It's like, how do I move this? And I get into forcing energy, and I see myself doing it. But the ego is so threatened, I think, by what's happened the past year, that it's having to kind of take a seat backwards. And we don't all know where things are going right now, and everything is changing. How we operate is changing. And so I think this stuck energy is just it's a challenge for so many people. And so for me, I think, like you said, Corey, learning not to fight it is a big thing, because it makes me want to fight it, because I want to conquer it. I want to solve it. And I catch myself just being in a mind loop with it. I'm like, how do I make this move? And so we try to get into physical action to compensate when we're energetically not flowing, or at least that can be very tempting to do. We're used to a certain pace of life, to working all the time, to going all the time. And so we've had to kind of stop for a while and restructure. And it's so hard for us to know, like, well, what do we do now? And so this has been something that's been, you know, a struggle for me the past year or so. And so for me, it's like you said, you know, guys, don't pressure yourself. You know, just also sometimes the universe is giving us a timeout. You know, that's kind of what the guides have said this past year is about. It is a reset. We were supposed to sit down and be quiet. that's what this whole, we've talked about this transition period that we've been in, and a lot of that was the point of it, is to get us out of that frantic go mode. But we don't know what the next phase is. And so it can leave us feeling very helpless and stuck. And so for me, trying to stay out of my mind helps me from getting in those just continuous, oh God, what do I do now? How do I solve this? And also, sit down and just surrender has been a big word for me in getting unstuck, to realize sometimes when you're not moving, something is happening energetically at another level. We're working energetically at other levels that we can't see with our physical eyes. We might not see it in our job and our clients, but we're doing a lot of work spiritually on another level. And so for me, just surrendering that sometimes we can't see what's happening. We're making a lot of progress, but we may not necessarily, it might not look like what we think it's supposed to look like, can be a way to, like you said, Yaila, surrender and grace, to turn it over to the fact that at some level of our being, our higher selves know how to move us forward, and getting back into the heart for me and just asking for, my higher self or higher consciousness to show me the next step. I don't have to see the whole path, but can you just show me what to move toward? And so that for me has been a little helpful, keeping me out of those stuck freakouts that, my lawyer mind wants to get me into, and just realizing that there's a higher purpose, and that sometimes things are unfolding and we just can't always see it with our physical eyes. So I think you guys hit on great points, and I'm taking notes.
Well, and something else is popping into, and I love that you're saying that, Peyton, because it's true. I mean, both of you said it. We've all been stuck, and I've watched myself kind of go in that when I'm too much in my mind. I'm an Aquarius, so I'm always like overthinking, overanalyzing everything. And so I've caught myself in the past where I'll do this like spiral downwards, and especially when I'm like, oh my gosh, why can't I figure this out? I usually find myself like thinking I'm a smart person, I can usually figure stuff out, but every once in a while when I notice, and this might be helpful for some people, to move into like a new, maybe like feeling stuck or like a new level I'm stepping into, I'll notice that my house gets a little bit, like my physical space gets a little bit more messy, meaning, like laundry doesn't get put away as soon, dishes pile up longer than they normally, like there's just stuff in my house gets a little bit more disorganized. And I love what Corey was saying earlier too with, do something different. And so when I'm trying to find clarity on that next right step, and I'm, asking for my heart center, like, what is this next right step? What can I do? And I may not be hearing or connecting with anything. I'll look at my physical space. I'm like, oh, well, I can kind of organize that. I can clear this out. And I start physically clearing my space. And then that also has me start to mentally clear my space. Like, what am I holding on to? And I think, Peyton, you were really touching on this last year. I think it's brought in a lot of awareness for people just being forced to slow down. And I think it's brought to the surface a lot of values. Like, what do we really value? What do we really care about? And we've had to ask some of these tough questions. And we are still learning and deciding what those new values are and what our new lifestyles look like. But pause and allowing the clarity come through, whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, just allowing the clearing to happen. And then, just going, like you were saying, Peyton, that next right step. You don't have to have the whole thing figured out. How about right now? What can I focus on?
Yeah.
Not beating myself up, and that's the whole thing. Being stuck, like I said, is always, frustration always accompanies that. And yeah, just sometimes just physically moving your body. Or I know oftentimes if I feel stuck, I'll call one of you ladies. Just go, you know what? I'm feeling really stuck. And maybe you might be able to tell me what it is, reading the energy. But if nothing else, I know that I can ask for help, because going along in the world, I did everything myself. asking for help was like, and sometimes it takes having somebody else just move some energy for you, just even if it's just a little bit to just ease on the frustration of being stuck. So yeah, just I too can get in my head. Oh my gosh, I can get in my head. So I know better either to, and sometimes it's just about sitting and meditating and visualizing something different, or just hooking up to spirit and saying, do you have a message for me? And patience. Patience is really hard when you're stuck, because we get the messages when we get the messages. The wonderful thing about having so many tools is that you can just keep trying the energy tools until something clicks and spirit is ready to give you the message. That's what I've come to find with feeling stuck, is that patience. But feeling proactive in using the energy tools, whether it's grounding or in meditation, or just clearing out my energetic body center, just in my head. But sometimes we get so stuck, we can't even see the forest through the trees. We can't see the other side. And so the big thing for me was to call a colleague, like you ladies. I'm so grateful that that we have each other.
Absolutely.
That was one of the things. We're in it. We're all in it together. We're all here doing a journey. And when we isolate ourselves, when we're feeling stuck, you stay isolated, right? So sometimes it just helps to write a text, pick up the phone, say, I'm just feeling stuck. Do you see it? Can you just read my energy and let me know? Or can you shift some energy for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you hit on it so much, because whenever I am feeling really stuck, which I have a lot lately, it's that it gets so frustrating. Like you said, Corey, it is that feeling, and then we fight the stuckness. And I think that's when we make it worse, is because then we're aware that we're stuck and we're demanding the spirit answer the question and, tell us how to move forward. And we get very bossy with spirit, or at least I do. And then of course nothing happens because we're in the wrong energy. Because in my guides, actually, I kept saying, like, how do I move forward? How do I do this? And my guides came through and they reminded me, they're like, you're creating stuck. The more you tell the story that you're stuck, the more you create more stuck. And I'm like, oh, dang, you're so right. I was totally doing that. And it's, as much as we know this and we use these tools, you can fall back into those, creating what you don't mean to create, because we get focused on it and we get frustrated and we get impatient, and so for me, the two things have been, having to learn to surrender, that sometimes I don't know the next step and I have to be okay with that. If I'm on the spiritual path, I'm not calling the shots anyway, spirit is calling the shots. And then second, like you said, Corey, just take action in any direction seems to help me. Doesn't matter what it is, just move the energy somewhere. Get yourself moving in some direction, and then let's see what comes through. What's the next step? But I have to learn, not to fall down that rabbit hole of fighting the stuckness, because what do we get then? We get more stuck. So.
Absolutely.
Well, I was going to say, and also too, is that feeling of stuck, and that frustration, often means that there's something that needs to be released. Sometimes we don't know exactly what it is at that moment, but that's one of the first questions in meditation. I'll ask spirit or even myself, okay, I'm feeling stuck. So there's probably some stuck energy in my body. And where is it? Sometimes I don't even know what's stuck. But if I look at my energetic body and I can see some stuck energy, instead of getting frustrated because I can't quite figure it out, the releasing of that stuck energy me to the answer. So sometimes just where is it in your body? Where is it? Sometimes you get an answer as to why you feel stuck, what you need to release. Sometimes you don't. But if nothing else, you know, I look for where is it stuck in my body and release it.
Or what I always like to ask too, like, what am I holding on to that's not working for me? Like, is it a thought? Is it actual energy? Like, what about this is not working for me? What am I holding on to?
Yeah. And I have a version of that. I always ask, what do I need to see? I'm like, clearly I'm doing this. What do I need to see that I'm not seeing?
Yeah.
Because I have to go back to that humility when I start to get bossy about things not happening or not happening as fast as I think they should. A lot of times we're standing around and we're not seeing it. And so universe is grinding us to a halt going, girl, there's something here you need to see. And we're like, no, tell me the answer. So I'm like, all right, I back off. What do I need to see? It's all me. So all different ways to kind of say a similar thing, but there's a reason.
Yep.
Oftentimes.
Love that.
So great discussion. You guys have given me some great things to think about. So as we wrap up this topic, please like these videos, share them, please subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.